This is The Big Breakdown, a long look back at some of the biggest stories we're covering for you at the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
Let's go on to another case that is making a lot of headlines and making a lot of people angry enough to go out in the cold and hang out outside the courthouse in Stillwater, Oklahoma, with large signs screaming and yelling. A essay that took place there, strangulation, video evidence, and a plea deal so lenient. People in Oklahoma are outraged. 18-year-old Jesse Butler, once facing nearly 80 years behind bars after allegedly essaying, sodomizing, and using instruments during the assault and strangling a 16-year-old to near death. She had to have surgery. He's walked away with no prison time. Instead, community service, counseling, youthful offender status. How did this happen? Who made the deal? And what messages does this send to survivors, especially the two young women who now have to live in this same small community with this monster? To justice, to the community, what is going on? Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent, with us. Let's walk through the starkest contrast here. An alleged crime so violent and so graphic, coupled with a plea resolution so minimal. By law and practice, how does something like this even come together, Jennifer?
Well, how it happens is you have a defense attorney that is working their magic and or has some sort of relationship, which they often do with the prosecutor, right? Whenever you have a prosecution, this is Stillwater, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Whenever you have a DA's office, those line prosecutors, they come to know defense attorneys. And through that relationship, I believe, they made the agreement that Jesse would be changed in status. He was initially charged as an adult. They changed it to what we call a YO, a youthful offender status. That then put in motion having him not get 1 day behind bars, which is sickening. And the judge approved it. By the way, female DA, female judge.
Yeah.
Jaw dropping what happened here.
That's what really makes me go, huh? And I told this case over the weekend to some folks that we were discussing, and I'm like, and it's a female DA and a female judge. Like, what the hell is happening here? I mean, is this people? It's not even following the letter of the law. It's not like, well, these are the only paths we're allowed to go down, so we have to go down them. They have levers they can pull. This happened to be one of the levers they could pull. Youthful offender. Technically, it was available. Youthful offender status does exist for certain crimes. This probably would not be one of them, but technically it's on the menu, right?
This isn't stealing a candy bar for F's sake. I mean,
no.
To me, this just screams somebody in the family is prominent in the community. Therefore, we're just going to do a little slap on the wrist and, stay out of trouble and you'll be fine. We'll take care of you. That's what that screams to me.
Well,
off base?
Well, no, I don't think you're off base. It's hard to tell in this case whether the judge had exactly what the judge's ties were. But it is interesting because some judges, they just are clueless as to the decisions they make and what that leads to. I'll give you an example. The case Baby Haro, Emmanuel Haro. That judge literally gave somebody who beat somebody so far to death, her name was Promise, his little girl, so far to the point of death that to this day, she will never walk, she will never talk. She unfortunately has been so damaged. And that judge says in court, this is all available to see, essentially, okay, listen, you messed up. Listen, if you mess up again, you got 6 years hanging over you. So please go out and be a good guy. That guy didn't get any jail time either. And you're seeing the same thing here. So is it just the stupidity and the incompetence and the, a judge that has never seen the realities of this that hands down the sentence, or is it something more devious, like you're alluding to, that there was some sort of quid pro quo or deal?
I've seen people get more time for marijuana possession
Oh, yeah.
than for this shit.
Easily.
I'm getting charged up, so I'm sorry. I don't mean to be like, rawr, but seriously, what the F is happening here?
No, it's terrible. And in this case too, guess how long he has to serve?
Nothing.
And when I say serve, no, I mean, but serve under this quote unquote detention. So he's on home detention. Okay. And it's supposed to expire when he turns 19. Well, he's getting close to that already. And what does it say in the order? He can't game, can't be on videos. Isn't it shocking? That's what they're concerned about. And the fact, do you think Mama, who sat on the porch and said, honey, when he was taken off, which, by the way, this was so well orchestrated. They ring the doorbell.
I know.
They're going to be there.
That's what made, I think, it's so enraging to everyone. If that police body cam video did not come out, I don't think everyone would be as upset as they are, because we're just seeing just privilege, in motion. Okay, well, we're gonna have to take you down. We're gonna had he been brown, black, or anything other than white and living in that neighborhood, I think his face would have been planted into the concrete of that porch, and cuffs would have been on his ass, and they would have been stomping on his head and kneeling on it and then pulling him out. Not, okay, little boy, let's go here. Did you hit a homer this weekend? It's insane. The kid gloves they handled this monster with. And it was women that were handling it too, which was also like, are you freaking kidding me?
I would have kicked him in the nads so fast if I had access to him.
Does anyone have any clue the trauma which this kid put these other people through? Or the only thing that can run through my mind on this shit, and I'm not far from Stillwater, it's about a 3-hour drive. I considered driving over there the other day, but I have other shit to do here. Is this level of abuse, this level of depravity, this level of boys will be boys mentality just such a normal part of the culture and mentality that even the women are like, well, boys will be boys?
Well, Tony, in this part of the country in Oklahoma, and I was raised in Kansas and Nebraska.
Yep.
Look, there used to be a philosophy that it was impossible to sexually assault, RAPE, a woman.
Yeah.
I am not even kidding you.
I know.
Like, oh, well, she must have said yes, or, she physically let it happen, right? Absolutely. That's what the system is trying to overcome now. That whole mentality, it still exists. Blame the girls. And these girls, I tell you, if I lived in Stillwater or in Oklahoma and that happened to me, I wouldn't want to tell anyone. Because it's going to happen.
Well, now people are going to come forward.
Yeah. It's tragic, the ripple effect this will have on other cases.
Yep.
I hope that DA is removed. I hope that judge is removed. Nobody should be able to stand for this. And it's terrible.
Well, and what can be done now at this point? At the end of the day, the order is sealed. The agreement has been made. It is what it is. You can't go back and retry him on this. Now, the odds of him reoffending are sky high. The odds are, it'll probably happen, and it'll probably go down for that after there's another victim. But as of right now, you still got the judge on the bench. You still got the DA. Some of these are elected positions. I think both actually are. Other than voting, what can be done other than scream and publicly shame the living shit out of these people?
Right. The bottom line is there's no way to go backwards. That would be double jeopardy. He's already been adjudicated. So there's no way to go backwards. The only way things could change, Tony, is there another victim out there? We know there were 2 victims. Was there any other victims? So, and will they even come forward after this travesty? So that's the only way. But I tell you, a guy like this who enjoys strangling their partner to the point of them almost dying. And for those of you who don't know about strangulation, just within cutting off the carotid, that oxygen to the brain, within seconds, and I teach this in class, we strangle each other. We use belts, ligaments, we use our hands, because I want you to understand that feeling when you're in a controlled classroom for 2 seconds or 3 seconds, right? It takes your breath away. It takes your cognitive ability away, but you're not dead. You're just unconscious. Then you have to continue strangling for a long period of time to actually have somebody become unalived. So when you think about that, that is what brought him his sexual pleasure. This is a Bundy, Hurman type mentality in the making.
Yeah, we have not heard the last of this guy.
No, you haven't. I want to know what the hell's going on in that home, that this is the monster it created. And I'm not accusing the parents of anything. I'm just saying I want to know what the hell's going on in that home, that this is the monster that was created. And maybe nothing at all. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that is what was going on in the home. Nothing. And this little piece of shit was left to his own abilities to wander into the online world of all of that and discover, oh, this is what I'm into, or have his brain be tricked into thinking this is what this is like in the real world, as so many idiotic young boys are now. And then they think, oh, strangulation is just part of the act. I mean, the fact that this moron wanted to tape it, too. It wasn't just, I saw this online and I'm 16, 17 and an idiot. It's like, and I want to get it on video. I mean, he's a special type of predator that ain't going to be stopped by a year of let's, go sit in your parents' basement and play Nintendo, or he's not allowed to play Nintendo.
He can't do that.
He can't play Nintendo. Maybe if it's offline, maybe he has to go to the ones like old school, like he has to play Atari or something that doesn't have an online element to it. But none of this is going to be fixed. I don't know. I mean, it's utterly shocking that this is how they're going to handle it. But your point being, if there is another person out there, if there is another victim out there, trust me, you will be heard. This system does not want to look as shitty as it does right now. Yeah. And if one more person out there was violated by this creep, even at the smallest of levels, please come forward. You can be the one that puts this fucker away for the rest of his life. Because I think they're probably chomping at the bit for that to happen so they can go, something needs to correct this horrible, horrible decision that we have half the villagers with pitchforks and flames out in front of our law office for, or the courthouse for.
Well, and don't forget, too, one of the things that I saw last week, and I saw even more of it this weekend, is there is an online presence of women with pitchforks. They've put pictures of him, videos of him, talking to moms, daughters, sisters, anybody who has a woman in their life. If you are anywhere near the vicinity of this man, this boy, this child, whatever you want to call him, this monster.
He's a man. He's 18.
Okay. Don't date him. Don't talk to him. Avoid him. I mean, this guy, he is plagued forever. If anybody has an online presence, they've seen the videos. I've seen them so many times I can't even count. And I'm not even anywhere near Stillwater.
You know the reason, though, I'll say he's not plagued? If they decide to move, it literally, all it takes is going into a courthouse and changing his name. He can officially get a name change. It's so easy. Just walk in, say you want your name changed, and walk out, and you're a different name. He can change his appearance to some degree. But I can tell you, as you guys know, unless you're a true crimer, I say this all the time, unless you're a political advocate, unless you're a newsie, so many people, if you walk on a plane right now and say, has anybody heard of Jesse Butler? I promise you, maybe no one will raise their hand.
No, you're right. You're exactly right. But in that community, everybody knows him. So at the very least, his life is hell. and he's going to have to move if he wants to have any semblance of normalcy, and he's going to have to change his name. And every time he says his name for the rest of his life, he's going to know why he had to change that name, and probably have to change it again and again and again and again, because people like this don't tend to change. So I'm glad. And here's the other fun part of the world we live in. Changing your name doesn't always fix it anymore. No. I mean, the identity, your facial features, all that can be searched. You can do search recognition just on a face. And you're right. He could change his looks. He could get a bunch of Botox, make his eyebrows get really high up, and do true crime for the rest of his life. We've seen that happen. But
whoa!
Wait, what?
See what I did there? Anyway,
I got it.
Little Botox changes everything. But the thing is, I mean, he could do those sorts of things, but there will be a level where this will follow him. I hope anyway, for the rest of his life. An interesting thought I had on this too, and I'm curious to get your take, Jen. Had he gotten some sort of punishment, because I doubt it would have ended up being 78 years. It probably would have been something for being a youth. He would have gotten some time, maybe 5-10 years. Would that have been a better punishment? Because we wouldn't be talking about it. It wouldn't be all over the news. It was like it made world news tonight. I mean, because of the buzz on this, it hit the evening news literally, and cases like this typically don't get there unless there's a lot of outrage. Now, the amount of outrage that is here and that will live forever online when searching this guy up or his image, it's there. None of that would have been there had he actually gotten some sort of punishment. And I'm not saying 5 to 10 years is reasonable. I think full 78 would have been fine. But something.
Yeah.
I think he would have had a better chance of going on and living a somewhat normal life after that. After this shit show, again, change his name. He's going to have to go somewhere else. That's going to be about the only way to live any sort of semblance of normalcy.
A couple of things. First of all, poor baby. He has to change his name. Poor baby. He's not going to want to have this look. He's going to have to hit a tanning booth. I mean, the bottom line is this kid, we haven't stopped seeing him. I will bet a lot that he will reoffend within the next couple of years.
Yep.
That's all I'm going to even give him. I don't even know if I'm going to give him that. And this is what's really terrible. My understanding is did you know this? He is actually, as long as he makes it another year or so, I don't even think it's a year left, he's going to get this expunged from his record.
Oh my God.
Did you know that?
He
will be expunged, and he will not have to be on a sexual registry.
I don't get.
When you look at the whole picture of this, how this judge and this DA has worked to cause this monster to be able to be out and victimize others, it's mind-boggling. And I'm glad everybody is so shooken up about it.
Everybody needs to look at the record of the DA and the judge as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of leniency in this department.
Who else did they do this to?
And people like that. I mean, other than, again, I and it's weird because it's like, I don't believe like public shaming should be our modality for fixing problems, but I feel like, well, if the system's not working, this seems to be all that's left. And unfortunately, that seems to be where we're sitting on this, other than another victim coming forward and saying, this fucker did this to me too, which if you're out there, please do. And you will be believed. Trust me. If anyone's going to be believed right now, you hold all the power in the world. Yeah. Other than that, is there any other thing that could happen here? Could we see any sort of federal charges be brought against him for this, since the state has obviously been derelict in their duty in handling this?
Yeah, unfortunately, I see no federal charge that would fit these parameters. He didn't cross state lines. Mm-hmm. Again, these girls, he was involved with them, at least initially, for months, one, a year, other, and then these sorts of horrible, violent acts began against them. and they have the courage to go forward. And those girls are now going to live a horrible life of counseling, of issues, of neck issues. She had to have surgery, of God knows other issues that they might have. Remember, instruments were used, sodomy.
He didn't cross state lines in this incident, but he was on the baseball team. And I don't know if they play outside of Oklahoma. I don't know how they're set up. I don't know nothing about this team. Some do. Some play, interstate wise into different teams and things like that. Just saying, I think that might be something to look at if anyone's looking to investigate this case and look at, did he cross a state line on one of those trips? Were they ever, sometimes if you're staying overnight, you're staying at a hotel. A lot of times it's just the team together, but sometimes they're able to, I don't know. I'm just saying there may have been opportunities where he may have crossed state lines. And if you're doing this sort of shit on the regular, it's not unquestionable that you might be doing it across state lines on the regular as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like you said, because this has blown up, in terms of the media, and that's what the wonderful thing social media and mainstream media can do, bring eyes on issues like this. Maybe somebody will come forward, like you said.
I think it's something to look at. If you've seen this monster, if you had any interactions with him in the state, without a doubt. If you're outside of the state, even better, because that's where it can become federal territory, because you're crossing state lines and he's doing that sort of shit. So, and I'm not saying this with glee if someone was violated by this monster, but I'm saying you have the power to take one down and basically hit a home run right now. And just literally, not trying to make a pun of a sport, but you can knock one out of the park and knock him out of the park too. So he can't do this to anybody else, because guess what? He's on deck to do it again right now.
Oh, and he will. We'll be doing stories about him. Somebody in our comment section, Rose City, said, we will read about him when he becomes a serial killer. We will have a channel about him in years.
Start one right now. Let's get the audience prepped and primed. We've been following him since he was doing this. Who would have ever thought? It's a crazy case, and another one where the system absolutely failed and has left everyone going, how do we fix this? Jennifer Coffindaffer, as always, thank you for coming on and giving us your insight. You guys let us know your thoughts in the comments section on YouTube. Be sure to check out Jennifer's channel, Break the Case, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube, where you can check out her podcast as well and her coverage of this and many cases as well. Break the Case with Jennifer Coffindaffer. Go and find that. Until next time, for all of us, I'm Tony Brueski. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast. This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Here now, Tony Brueski.
There are crimes that make you angry, and then there are cases that make you lose faith in the entire idea of justice. In Stillwater, Oklahoma, Jesse Butler was charged with 11 felonies, SA, attempted SA, S battery, and assault and battery by strangulation after attacking two 16-year-old girls. One victim was choked unconscious. The other needed neck surgery. That's how bad it was. Doctors said seconds longer, she would have died. Police even found partial phone video showing the assault because he wanted to tape it. What kind of evidence, or with that kind of evidence, you'd expect decades behind bars. Far-reaching penalties and punishments that would never leave this man's path. Instead, the system gave him mercy. Butler entered a no contest plea, meaning he didn't admit guilt but accepted conviction because he was 17 at the time. His lawyers argued he qualified as a youthful offender, and the judge agreed. 78 years were suspended. He'll serve 1 year of supervision. No prison, no record that follows him into adulthood. except for YouTube videos and coverage like this. 11 felonies, 1 year. That's not rehabilitation. That's privilege masquerading as compassion. And what makes it worse is how easily everyone around him, family, officials, the community, just seem to accept it. The mother's body cam quote said it all. "I'll get you out," she said. And she did. So today we are asking, how does this happen? How do parents, courts, and communities learn to protect the predator instead of the people he's hurt? Joining us, psychotherapist and author Shavaun Scott, here to break down the psychology behind denial, privilege, and misplaced empathy, and why these patterns keep letting violence and violators walk free. Shavaun, as always, thank you for being here. This is one of those cases where you just get so tense. At least I do. I mean, I felt it just even getting through the introduction to this. And we're going to talk about all different aspects of this today. But I want to start here. And I think one of the bigger aspects of this case, sometimes it gets lost in the weeds a bit, but it's important because it really, I think, gets at the psychology and the root of some of this. When someone strangles another person until they lose consciousness, that's not impulsive, that's control. What does this tell us about the offender's mind? Let's start there.
Yeah, strangling should not be looked at as a red flag. It is a blaring siren for someone who is very likely to commit homicide in the future. And we know that without a doubt. Half of the women who are killed by partners at some point in the past had been strangled, and then they went on to be murdered. So you can't find anything that's a more dangerous sign than someone who engages in that kind of behavior. So it's someone that, yes, is into domination, control, humiliation. They've linked arousal to someone else's pain and terror. So we're talking about a sadistic psychopath here. And it doesn't matter if they're 16 or 26 or 36, this is an ingrained part of who they are.
It really is. I mean, it's always been something to me that I'm always like, why would somebody like this? I don't know. I mean, everybody's got their things, but it goes beyond a kink. Unfortunately, the reality is today in so much of the things that young men will consume with porn online and such, it's the norm. It's a common thing. It's like, this is how we do it, to borrow some words from Montel Jordan. Although I don't think this is what he meant by this is how we do it. The things that these young boys are seeing and then basically imprinting into their brains and then going out there and acting on, I'm wondering, in a case like this where he is 17 years old, when they're saying these sort of things online, do they even know why they like them or if they like them, or are they just repeating what they're seeing and thinking, well, this is how we do it?
I think it has a lot to do with at what age they're seeing stuff like this. And yes, we're talking about kids that are 6 and 8 year olds that are having unsupervised time on the internet and are seeing just shockingly violent content. And not all kids are going to obviously watch stuff like this and go out and repeat it. But if you have somebody who has some genetic vulnerabilities, they're wired differently, and then at critical points in their sexual development, they're exposed to this kind of porn, it imprints in them. And that's how they pair the arousal with that kind of sadistic aggression.
I mean, how dangerous is that? I mean, is that taking what may be a brain that wouldn't necessarily go down that path, down that route of, this is what I mean, let's not make any mistake here. This was rape. So I don't want to, this is not a consensual sexual encounter that we're talking about here. But let's kind of talk more so on the levels where it is more consensual, but this one person wants to do that to somebody else. When it comes to that, and that brain that has seen that and it's imprinted on, the dangers of that happening at such a young age, what I'm getting to, is this something where, had they not been exposed to that at such a young age, maybe this would never been part of their repertoire going forward, but because it gets introduced is almost some sort of weird backwards trauma almost, that this is now there, and that's a new requirement for them to, get off, essentially?
Yeah, I think it warps their sexual development. And so it's possible to have somebody who maybe was born with some psychopathic tendencies, but they were never exposed to material like that. So it didn't go in that direction. And they might have been someone that never acted out in a violent way if they hadn't have been exposed to it. But kids are really vulnerable when they're developing their sexual beliefs and ideas and the things that arouse them. And that's, I hate to come off as a prude, but I am so concerned about the material on the internet and what kids are consuming. It's just, it's changing brains, and we're still, the internet, this whole thing is still a fairly new experiment in the long arc of history here. And I don't think we're going to know for a long time exactly the full extent that this is having.
I mean, this has never happened before. So we have nothing to base it on. I mean, there's always been pornography to some extent and things like that, but the level of the vileness of what's out there that is being passed off as this is pleasure, this is that. Right. And then to put that into the mind of someone at that age, I can't contemplate. I can't contemplate what a brain would be like at that young age, and then what it's going to be like at 30 or 40. I mean, if this is what your original programming is, it's not going to end well. I think we all know that. Yeah. Why is this urge to control, to dominate, so often dismissed in kids, especially young boys, as youthful immaturity, when it's actually a red flag for chronic violence?
I think people are really lacking awareness of the issues around power, control, what's healthy male behavior versus, boys are just boys and they like things like that. Families can really have a warped sense of what's normal. I have a cousin who as a little girl, was sexually molested in the middle of the night by a teenage, a relative. And when she told her mother, she just said, boys do things like that. And that's been quite a few years ago, but we've got, a long history of normalizing aggressive sexual behavior by men. And I think we're doing a lot better talking about it now, but we need to keep talking about it because people do seem overall to still have a lot of ignorance about what's healthy and what's not.
There's a lot we're going to talk about here too, and I'm not jumping to the end, but I'm jumping to an end kind of a chapter of this. The repercussions for this kid, basically, you have to do some counseling. And they went down the rehabilitation route. So what sort of magic do they have going on there in Stillwater, Oklahoma, that's going to rehabilitate this kid that we don't have in every other place of the country? Because I'd love to know what sort of magic is happening there. I mean, what kind of assessment or treatment would actually be needed for rehabilitation of somebody like this, if that's even a possibility?
Yeah, I am going to be in the camp, which some people may disagree with me, that true rehabilitation, meaning personality transformation, turning somebody this abnormal into somebody normal, is not possible. And certainly outpatient talk therapy once a week in a community setting is not going to touch it. This guy is going to come in, he's going to con, he's going to lie. And there is no magic. Therapists don't have magic. Believe me, I would have fixed the world decades ago if I had that power. But yeah, traditional therapy doesn't change personality. What might have an impact on him? Being incarcerated in either a prison or a forensic mental health locked facility with an intensive program for sex offenders, where he can be taught to if motivated, control his urges, not act out on women, to try to maybe get to the root of why are you so damn angry at women? What is this, what is this all about? And are those programs ever successful? It's questionable. Maybe after enough time behind bars, somebody can learn to curtail their urges. But I think that's the best you can look at. There's not going to be a transformation for someone like this.
What on earth do you think is going through the DA's mind, the judge's mind in a case like this, where, I mean, they had a choice. I mean, number one, they were following the law. They didn't have to go down this route. They didn't have to go down the youthful offender route. It was one of the levers they could have pulled, and they chose to pull it. They could have also chose to pull the trap door that said, you're going away for 78 years, and we're not going to traumatize these girls and make them move out of this city because they're fearing seeing you at Subway and freaking out because they're being re-traumatized every time they have to face your disgusting face. But they didn't. They said, little junior here, his second chance is more important than your trauma. Why? I get why. Is it because they do not see it remotely on reality's terms? But we see this so often where they're giving these young, vile mutants second chances at life. And then the victims are just like, well, good luck. Hope you don't run into them somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty much impossible for me to wrap my head around what in the world are they thinking. Are these people, I'll just say the word, are they stupid? I mean, how ignorant would you have to be to not get this at this point? Because, yeah, you use the word re-traumatizing. These victims are re-traumatized by the fact that nothing happened, that nobody has empathy for them. And this is something that they're going to carry for the rest of their lives. And as you say, do they leave town because they're frightened? And it's just, it's horrifying that you would have anybody that would see this as the right call.
I feel like in the Choose Your Own Adventure book of this, there's like three options for what they are. They're either stupid, sadistic, meaning, well, I went through something like this too, and then some people have that, well, you can, you can deal with life too, and we don't care, we'll make it more difficult, and that sort of weird way of thinking that people have about looking at youth and shit like this. Or they're fellow predators. It's like one of the three. And I'm not saying that these people are predators, so nobody mistake that. But I'm saying it could be one of the options. It's probably one of the three. Stupid, sadistic, or a predator.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. And there could also be in a small community this sense of protecting our image. And we don't want to believe that there could be somebody, a member of our community, that's this evil. And so we're just sort of in denial about how awful this is.
It'd probably fall into the stupid category.
That would, yeah.
That would be there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, let's watch this clip first, actually, in case someone has not seen this. This is the clip that really put this case into the spotlight. This is him being arrested on the porch, and it just says so much about the upbringing of this little monster and the bubble wrap to which he is coming out of as mom opens the door with the police and the arrest warrant. Let's take a look.
Wallet and phone and stuff. So, okay. Your what?
They're in the car.
Well, okay, it's fine. It's not locked or anything, is it? Okay. So, can you tell him what you just told me, or?
Yeah. So we're here. We're obviously going to place you under arrest. There's a warrant for your arrest. We're going to take you to the jail. I told your mom that she can contact a bondsman, and you shouldn't be very long. But there just is a process for paperwork and stuff. But right now you do have to come with us, and I do have to put you in handcuffs. So turn around for me.
You have to put him in handcuffs? You know we're doing this. It's okay. Yeah. I'll get you out. For me? Alright. Stay silent. Rick knows about this. Candy's on this. Dad's on his way. We're coming to get you, okay? Stay strong, okay? Say your prayers.
Okay, so he's going to go right to the city of Stillwater jail, and if you'll just contact her, then she does this all the time. She knows what to do.
Yep.
Make sure
Okay.
she knows Stillwater Police Department, not a county.
Yeah.
Stillwater Police Department.
Yeah.
On Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let them know that we're the ones that picked him up.
And
They
when
don't-
we say we are
Stillwater PD.
Stillwater PD.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way they don't think he went like straight over and he's over at the county.
Awful experience for the child.
Pat you down. Spread your feet for me. Nothing on your side.
That's Jess.
I'll get you out. Do you have to put him in cuffs?
Yeah.
No one has to know about this, or no one knows about this. Say your prayers.
Say your prayers. That's the one that really got me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
say your prayers. I'm going to be praying that lightning strikes the vehicle on the way and only you are taken out. What is going on psychologically here when a parent is in that type of mode?
This is the kind of parent that produces the cluster B stuff that we're always talking about, the personality disorders. Her baby can do no wrong, and he is a reflection of her good parenting. So how in the world could he ever do anything evil? Because it's really all about her. And it's incredible. The other thing that struck me is how big this guy is. And I don't care if he's 17 or 15. One of the awful rape cases I worked with when I was in the Rape Crisis Center was a 13-year-old who was a big 13-year-old. And a woman was jogging around a track at the middle school, in the late afternoon. And this 13-year-old came out of the bushes with a big rock, hit her in the head, crushed her skull. She didn't die, but she was, very impaired afterwards, and raped her at 13. And this was an adult woman. And so it's striking how much mom sees this, 6'5" Hulk as her baby. It's another bizarre aspect to it. Talk about enabling.
Do you think mom believes the story? Do you think she believes that her son did this deep down? Or is that something where, like we see in so many cases, you just can't process it because it's just too dark, and she in her heart thinks that those girls are lying or something?
Yeah.
And we can't speak for her.
Yeah.
This is just, in our opinion, allegedly, whatever you want to say. It's an opinion piece. What do you think is going through her mind? Do you think she's thinking that these girls are picking on my little boy and they're making these horrible accusations against him?
That would be my guess. That would be my best guess, that it's just too threatening to realize that she has raised a monster, and her denial, as we say, denial can be thick, and it just kicks in that, he's her angel, and prayer is going to fix him here.
How do denial and the image protection really kind of become a form of complicity in something like this?
Very much, very much. Complicity, not only from the parents, but from the whole system, the whole legal system in that community. I think they're all complicit, and they're all re-victimizing the poor young women.
And that's the thing. It seems to be the parents. It seems to be the system. What is going on in this ecosystem that can't accept this child as a violent offender? They're certainly not living in reality on reality's terms. I don't know if they're all just seeing, we saw the picture of him in the little boy baseball player, and then he's this, doughboy rape machine monster that is going around, but they seem to still stick over here because this image feels better to them rather than dealing with reality. What kind of self-talk is going on amongst mom? That's one. But then you get to the greater ecosystem here, the DA, the judge, all these people that are supposed to be the safeguards, where they understand internally in a family, that's going to be a hard one to digest. That's going to be a hard one. That if anybody's going to have some grace of it's hard to see your loved one as this monster, but in reality they are. So the rest of the system, thank God, normally does to protect the victims. But even there, they're like, well, you got a little too rough that time. They're treating this Like Robin made a good reference the other day. She's treating it like she's losing her dog. And she's treating it, and the system is treating it like her dog humped the neighbor's dog. And it wasn't her little boy out there savagely raping and nearly choking out and killing another 16-year-old. It's stunning, the way that they're able to frame this in their brains.
Right. I just think it's a community that does not want to look at reality because it makes them look bad. And there's likely a strong undercurrent within the community culture of misogyny and those very traumatic, old-fashioned views of rape, that women who get raped in some way are responsible for what happened, and that you can't believe women. And, we see that play out over and over again. And fortunately, I think things have changed a lot, but clearly you get these pockets of this little social network, which are still very backwards.
Yeah, and they're connecting the dots through religion. I mean, she did it right there. Say your prayers. What the hell is going on in someone's mind? Your son is literally been about to be convicted of doing this. And say your prayers. Walk me through some of the religiosity here that's going through the minds of these people, in your opinion.
Well, it's magical thinking, as we know, and you can take magical thinking in all kinds of directions. And so what I hear with say your prayers is that, God can magically fix this for you. And that is apparently what is happening, although I'm not going to blame God. I'm going to blame misogyny and stupidity for what's happening. But do they also see that this is just an attack of the devil? Because people who are that concrete with religion, everything bad that happens to them, Satan did it. It wasn't him. It's like the devil is doing this to us. So it's a very childlike way of thinking.
Pray it away.
Pray it away. Mm-hmm.
Pray it away. We're talking about the case of Jesse Butler, which, if you're happening to be searching this in 2030 and you found him on Tinder and he looks like a possible date and you're like, he looks really familiar, run for your fucking life. Here's the story. Since the courts said we're not going to lock you away for 78 years, we'll make your name known for 78 years, or however, basically into infamy. You're never going to live this shit down. Let's talk about the fact that obviously they said, okay, 1 year, some therapy, and don't screw up because then you might go back to jail or prison. But, hope they'll probably just have him locked in mom's basement with bubble wrap for a year is my guess. But let's talk about recidivism in something like this. The stats are what they are because a lot of sexual assaults don't get reported. But in reality here, what are we talking? The likelihood that this person or someone like this person, in your opinion, in your expertise, what are the odds?
Very
that
high.
This guy repeats the pattern.
Yeah, very high, because this is the sexual mapping in his brain. This is what arouses him. And those kinds of things can become addictive and compulsive. And this was not a one-time thing for him. There was a whole series of victims. And so I would think that sometimes with advanced age, let's say he was locked up for 30 or 40 years, he might get out as an old man and the odds would go down, less testosterone flowing in there. But none of us would want him dating our daughter, right? It doesn't matter how much therapy he had. You're not going to want to live next door to him or have him around anybody that you care about.
And that's an interesting thing to think about. Actually, I brought this up with Robin Dreek the other day, too. When the DA is making this decision, when the judge is saying, I'll sign off on the youthful offender bullshit in Oklahoma, because, again, it's Stillwater. They have magical water that magically wipes away rapists, and they just become wonderful human beings afterwards. When you have that going on and you have this idea of rehabilitation, do you think they'd be making the same choices if it were their own daughters that were violated by this blob? Would they be going, rehabilitation, 1 year? And if not, what kind of like cognitive dissonance is going on here that they're able to, well, it's someone else's daughters, it's someone else's 16-year-olds out there that are having to deal with this. I mean, that's some funky mental gymnastics going on.
Good term, mental gymnastics. It sure is not logical. It doesn't make any sense. It lacks, there's a lack of compassion and empathy and insight for understanding. And it would be a wonderful question for them if after a year of his counseling and minimal supervision, if he showed up at your front door asking your daughter out, would you smile and shake his hand and say, go out and have a nice time?
Yeah. We're talking earlier, stupid, sadistic fellow predator. What it's usually one of the three here. And identification with the offender. Because what we hear so often from folks who are giving these people the pass is, oh, they got their whole life ahead of them. We all make mistakes when we're young. It makes me really wonder about what kind of mistakes some people made when they were younger that they got away with, when they're letting shit like this just kind of go on down the road. How often is it where there's just this silent, deep down identification that's going on with people because it's either someone that they were or maybe still are, or someone that on the opposite scale of this was victimized by somebody like this. Mm-hmm. How often is that at play where maybe they were victimized, but in some way, shape, or form, there's an identification with the predator. It's, it's almost, in some weird sort of way, Stockholmish, where, but they deserve a second. Like now the person who did this to me, look, they have kids, they have a life, and things are good out there, at least in their minds from 10,000 feet away. How often is that at play when adults who should know better are making horrible decisions to let people like this out?
It's a really good question. I think one of the things where we've gone wrong as a society is misplaced empathy. And violent perpetrators with these kind of personality disorders, there's this myth that they're this way because they were all abused. And we've all heard that sentence, hurt people. And a lot of people buy into that. And I push back on it because that's really not what current neuroscience says. Mm-hmm. Many of these folks came from wonderful families. Maybe they had enabling, they had parents that fed their narcissism and they never got punished for anything. But this idea that we are supposed to have empathy for perpetrators, I think even victims can buy into that, and it's very misguided. I'll plug a book that just came out on 1031. It's not my book, so I don't make any money from it, but Cruelty by Nature by Dr. Peter Salerno. And the reason we have a lot of literature in, very clinical kinds of books and stuff that's very dense and hard to get through. But he wrote a really user-friendly book published on Halloween, available through Amazon. And it's a quick read, it's to the point, and he really goes into this myth that we have to have compassion for all these violent perpetrators because they've all been wounded and abused in the past. It's not true. And he explains it very succinctly and very, very clearly. And I'm going to be recommending this to everybody when I hear them say, oh, but we have to have compassion for these people. We don't. We don't. We need to look at this realistically. And it's the Cruelty by Nature, the science of intentional abuse. And that's the premise, is that these people know what they're doing. They may weaponize a story that, oh, I had it so hard as a kid, because it's a manipulation tactic. Yeah. And so we need to educate people better about misplaced empathy, and perpetrators need consequences.
Yeah, I mean, is that the one you recommended to me the other day too? I think you sent it to me.
It probably is.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I want to read that.
I was recommending it to everybody,
yeah.
And I love it because you can get through it in about 2 hours, and it's not like being weighed down with, with too much psychobabble. It's a good one.
dive into that one. That looks like very fascinating. And that's the thing with so many of these. And do we have such a difficulty with it because, a good chunk of our population is not psychopathic? Exactly. It's not necessarily because we're always trying to run things through our own prism of we've all done bad things in our life. Not like this shit, most of us, but we've all done some bad, and we all, feel shame for some of the things in our lives that we've done. And then is it just human to then equate everyone's bad things onto our own bad things? Like, well, I've done bad things too, but you may, like me, normal, healthy, people may be on the scale of bad thing here, and their shit's way out over here. Yeah. But because we're trying to empathize, and we don't. Is it because we can't quite understand the level of depravity and darkness that some people are capable of, because it just doesn't register, because we just don't viscerally feel it or see it or understand it.
Yeah, we don't understand it. People who have normal empathy can't fathom the true nature. I'll just call it evil. They can't fathom the nature of evil. And it's much more comforting to believe that folks who do these awful kinds of things, they're just damaged, they're just wounded. And then that also gives us the illusion of control that we can heal them. Yeah. And oh my gosh, is that a mistake? Don't marry someone like this thinking that your love is going to heal and change them. And that's another thing that, we read a lot about is people who end up, they're not psychopathic, they're not narcissistic, but they end up married to someone who is, because they thought they could help them. Yeah. And so there's a lot of traps with this stuff. And I think that's one of the things that I'm pretty passionate about. I know you are too, is let's get the accurate information out there so people can protect themselves, because there are a lot of predators. I mean,
and it'd be a very interesting shift in society if we ever get there, where we could just discard these people the way they deserve to be discarded, where it's just gone. But internally, we don't want to do that. That makes us feel like we're bad people. That makes us like, oh no. I mean, it's a lot. It's kind of like individuals who have maybe a narcissist in their family, a real volatile one, and people are like, why are you having a relationship there? And oftentimes, it can be because they don't know any better, or it could be because they're doing it for themselves, for what is going to be psychologically right and best for them, where others can just easily say, off with you, you're not going to traumatize me anymore. A world where we can more easily say, and it's safer to say, off with you, you can't traumatize me anymore. Why do you think it's so difficult for us to get there, where discarding vile human beings, people who are not ever going to have anyone's best interest at heart other than themselves, why is it so hard for us to see that and to act out that way?
I think it gets into hope and this idea that everybody can be fixed. I mean, I hear all the time, they just need to go to therapy. And they're describing someone horrible, right, with a severe, glaring personality disorder. And I'm always the one raising my hand and saying, do not send them to me, please. and that's, I've had enough of them sent to me over many years. And it's like, no more. I mean, I am not going to beat my head against the brick wall trying to get a psychopath to not be a psychopath anymore. It's useless. But people like to hold on to hope. I have a girlfriend who for many years was going into prisons with some organization and trying to do these little groups and teach the prisoners to have empathy and compassion. And when she read my book on mass killers, and I go into personality, this kind of stuff we're talking about now, she said it shook her to her core because she was so invested in rescuing and believing that she was going to make an impact. And so I think some people get a sense of power and control out of feeling like I'm going to be the one to change these people. And it's been a gradual wake-up call for her over the years that, as she said most recently, I think I'm just going to stick to rescuing dogs and get out of the prison thing.
It's a good tactic. I like that idea. Yeah. Let's shift to the other side of the story here. The victims, the two girls who did everything right, and they still watch the system set this monster free? What kind of trauma occurs when survivors see the leniency given to their abuser like this?
Yeah, it's a message to them that they don't matter, and they're re-traumatized by the legal system. And this is not just a single one-time trauma, but it's something that they live with every day. It goes on and on and on. So yeah, shame, anxiety, depression, reliving the experience. People have sleep problems. They're hypervigilant. It affects their sense of themselves and how they can ever feel safe in the world. It's really awful for them.
So they're out there feeling that every day, looking behind their back when they walk into a store. I'm sure looking around, making sure, oh God, I hope I don't run into him. Eventually, they'll probably have to move because of that, just so they can try and have some sort of peace and sanity. And this is what they're feeling every single day. Mm-hmm. What do you think this piece of shit is feeling when he walks into that Walmart?
Absolute normal way of being for him. Yes. Yeah. And there's probably a bit of increased self-esteem for what he got away with. You know, he feels pretty darn good about himself.
I'm sure the judge and DA should be very proud of their decision to allow that to happen. That seems like how the system should work for rehabilitation. It is absolutely maddening. I mean, what kind of message does that then send to other people who are going to go through this? I'm not necessarily speaking of who he will very highly likely reoffend against, but just other people in the community, other teenage girls, where this inevitably takes place because there's monsters out there like this. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And them wanting to speak up and say something. This is just basically saying, don't say shit, because you're gonna have to go through all of this. You're gonna have to go through court. You're gonna have to testify. You're gonna have to, be believed. And for what? Why go through all of that shit? Why put yourself through that emotional hell and re-victimize yourself and have to tell your story to a bunch of strangers where at the end of the day, the grown-ups in the room are gonna act more immature than this doughboy?
Yeah, it silences them. It silences them. And there are already so many women and young girls victimized sexually, often by family members. And they may try to tell someone, they're not believed. And this has a silencing effect. So they're isolated with shame and trauma and the lingering effects. And how do they ever feel safe in the world? There's that meme that's been going around in social media. If a woman was walking alone in the woods, and would she rather run into a man or a bear? And most women said they'd rather run into a bear than a man. And this is, I think, sometimes hard for men to understand how women move through the world with this sense of never really being safe. And cases like this just reinforce that.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking, and it's utterly insane and 1,000% preventable, especially when you have the bear in the trap. Mm-hmm. And we're like, go ahead, bear, go on out. Nothing could possibly go wrong from here. I did an analogy the other day. It's like being in a zoo, and the zookeeper is, we're going to let the mountain lion out. It's a real cute kitty. Go ahead. Like, this is a bad idea. Do not let the mountain lion. It's going to be fine. Just let it out. And then we're just like, well, this is just how we do things here. It's nuts. Why is our culture prioritizing these young boys' potential over these women's pain? Mm-hmm. I mean, and we had a female judge here too.
Really? Okay, that's a piece I did not pick up on. Wow. Yeah, even more shocking.
Yeah. It blows your mind, and then that's where I kind of try to feel like, is there some sort of identification going on here? Mm-hmm. Like what is going on, and it's impossible to know in anyone's mind exactly how they're processing it, but it seems like some sort of deep-rooted scarring or something that is allowing these people's actions or lack thereof to take the forms that they are.
Yeah, really misguided. And I would guess, again, this kind of magical thinking that there's something that can happen in talk therapy that is transformative, but it's crazy. I have not seen a case like this to this degree where somebody with this kind of violence and was just given this kind of a sentence. I mean, not even to have to register as a sex offender going into the future. Crazy.
Because this isn't even just one of those where it's a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old, and technically it's statutory rape, and they're both consenting to. This is not that at all. Right. And this is not where dad wants to press charges because this is not that. One of the girls almost died. Mm-hmm. and this is where we sit on it. It's utterly insane. If you could, because I'm sure he's going to be locked in his parents' basement or living in his parents' basement for the foreseeable future. That would be my guess. If you could say something to the parents, to mom, to dad, about anything, about the mutant that's living in their basement that they've wrapped in bubble wrap and the monster they've made, for the foreseeable future when he gets out, what would you be giving them in terms of recommendation on parenting advice for something like this?
Boy, those are the ones that you need to get into therapy. And I would have lots of questions for them. How do they explain this? What's the story they're telling themselves? And then I would ask lots of questions and poke holes in that story and try to get them to look at reality. And also to, read over. I think it can be very good therapy when you're trying to break through denial for people to read over the victim stories, because that's probably something that they've been ignoring. Mm-hmm. And I think that's sometimes enough to bust some denial if they have to sit and read aloud what really happened to the victims here. And then I was going to mention, as we were talking, I flashed on a case in Oregon, mm-hmm. Where it was a local case, and it was a 14-year-old boy with his 12-year-old cousin. And again, it was touching. It was not aggression in any way. And of course, touching is wrong. It's molest. Mm-hmm. He got a 10-year prison sentence for that. 10 years. And yeah. And when so you look at the differences in our country, depending on where you're at, is another strange thing. If this had happened in Oregon, I guarantee it would have been different than this kind of sentence. So isn't it interesting? The more God you got in your area, the lighter the sentences and the punishment is for absolutely deviant, evil behavior. Seems to kind of go against the way of God or any of that thinking. Mm-hmm. Call me crazy. I don't know. Shavaun Scott, psychotherapist and author, as always, thank you so much for coming on. Your books, The Mind of Mass Killers, available wherever books are sold, and your autobiography, Nightbird. This is another great read and really dives into where you come from and the expertise that you give, because it is lived. And it is sadly lived. Don't make the mistakes I made in my youth, kids. Yeah, it is lived, and the insight that you give is so priceless, and I think so much more weight on it than someone who's just studied this stuff. My God, both please do again check out wherever you get books. Until next time, for Shavaun and all of us here, I'm Tony Brueski. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.